Let's talk about the draft picks that the Jets made here. At number 110, I thought that they might go with David Walker, the pass rusher out of Central Arkansas. We talked about how Rick Spielman, senior advisor to the Jets right now, was very high on him, compared him to Brandon Graham. I thought maybe they would take Jalen Royals, the wide receiver out of Utah State, perhaps Joshua Farmer, the defensive tackle from Florida State. Instead, they went with Arian Smith, the wide receiver from Georgia. And it's funny because I know some people that are fairly connected to the Georgia program. Texted one of them, and I asked about Arian Smith. He said, last year when he was the fourth option, he was fine. This year when they had to count on him a little bit more, it was more dicey. Super fast, but can't catch. Hopefully he can fix that with some good coaching in the NFL. That was more or less what was told to me. And if you look at what he did production-wise this past year, it matches up. Very fast. On tape, you can see it too. 17 yards per reception, so big play guy when he was able to get the ball in his hands. Had over 800 yards of receiving, but Ryan, the big problem, the drops. He had 10 drops and 48 catches. That is a very, very bad drop rate. I believe it's something like 16%. And so that pick was the first one that made me scratch my head because I liked the first three picks. This one was bizarre. I know you didn't like it either. You said so on the stream.
Yeah, no, I was not a huge fan of this pick. There was Joshua Farmer, the D tackle at FSU, who played with Jermaine Johnson, was kind of the guy I was hoping we'd get, or Miles Frazier, help out the interior offensive line with AVT and Simpson going into the final years of their contracts. That's kind of where my head was at. There was also a lot of receivers. Like, I'm pretty sure this guy was graded as like potentially a seventh round or undrafted free agent pick. So it felt like a very, very big reach. Now, Dante Thornton did go just before the Jets pick, and he's a speed demon receiver. Maybe the Jets were just trying to identify a trait that was, above and beyond. They took this guy in on a top 30 visit to their facility, and it's one trait that they don't have in their room right now. Like, Lazard's a big-bodied guy. You got Corley, who's more of like a gadget guy. Garrett Wilson's the do-anything kind of guy. So for me, the profile of receiver made sense. It just felt like they really reached on him. Now, if he catches those 10 drops that he had, there's a real good shot this guy's being talked about as like a second-round pick. I think for me, there's some positives you can look at. As I've dove into him a little bit more, I'm softened a little bit on it, but then I see the injury history too. Apparently 2021, torn meniscus and broken fibula. Then he missed 4 games with a high ankle sprain in 2022. 2023, had a fractured ankle. So, like, injury prone, can't catch the ball consistently. Little bit of concern there. Now, if he's just going to be used as like a burner to take the top off the defense and to open up space for Garrett Wilson and Mason Taylor and Breece Hall and those guys, then I think it's probably all right. Justin Fields doesn't really go to his wide receiver 2 very frequently, and I can't imagine this guy's going to be seeing like the third most targets on our team either. So I don't know if it's as big of a deal right now, but it definitely felt like a stretch.
After that, at number 130, the Jets traded up because they were at 145. And I got a whole bunch of texts from people saying, could this be it? Could they be going for Shedeur Sanders? It was not Shedeur Sanders, and we'll get into him a little bit later. Instead, it was Malachi Moore, the safety from Alabama. I had been saying for a while I expected at least one safety in this draft. Very deep safety class, and Aaron Glenn has done really good work with safeties. We know that he had Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch in Detroit, did wonders for both of them. Malachi Moore, an older player, and that was the trend today, Ryan, because the first 2 days it was young guys. This day it was older players, 23, 24 years old. Malachi Moore is recovering from an injury, but he's a player that you would think on paper is very much an Aaron Glenn guy. Versatile, he can drop back in coverage and be very effective as a center fielder. High effort player, team captain at Alabama. So this is somebody that really fits the mold of what Aaron Glenn is looking to do. And I think he'll probably compete for playing time right away. I think he could absolutely develop into a starter over time as well. So interesting pick there at number 130. And we'll finish these out. And then, Ryan, I'll get your thoughts on it. The Jets had 2 more picks. They traded up in round 5. We'll get to that a little bit later. It was weird. They did some pick swapping of next year. I think they swapped a 5th rounder next year for a 6th rounder next year to move up. But before they did that, Francisco Malgoa, the linebacker out of the University of Miami, born in Samoa, and then split his time in high school between there and California before going to Washington State and then transferring to Miami. So he sort of did the same thing that Cam Ward did, although he spent 2 years at Miami. Cam Ward only one. He led the team in tackles 2 years in a row, actually had 7.5 sacks in 2023, known for being able to slide back in coverage a little bit too, which is nice. He was second team all ACC honors this past year. A little on the small side, only 230 pounds, but could be a nice rotational linebacker. And then finally, the last pick, Ryan, Tyler Barron at number 176. Like I said, they did trade up for that pick. Last pick in round 5. Barron actually was very effective. He did well at Tennessee. He did well at Miami. He transferred from Tennessee to Miami. It was a weird story, too, because he had committed to like 2 other teams before he finally decided on Miami. And he had 11.5 sacks the last 2 seasons, over 11 tackles for a loss each of those 2 years. Productive edge rusher, can set the edge as well. And so I think this is a guy that could be a really nice rotational piece here, take a little bit of the pressure off of Jermaine Johnson, because at the moment, he's the only edge rusher the Jets have that can do anything against the run. Tyler Barron should be able to help there. So, Ryan, your thoughts on those other 3 picks here on day number 3 for the Jets?
Yeah, I really like the Malachi Moore one a lot. I think he screams starting safety for me. Connor Rogers mentioned him as a dangerous roaming ball hawk as his description of the guy. As far as Glenn goes, he describes him as a Brian Branch type kind of player. 89.4 coverage grade, 75.5 run defense grade. Pretty solid all the way around as far as the PFF grades go. Francisco Kiko. I'm going to screw up this guy's last name over and over again, but I think it's Mauigoa is how it's pronounced. 9.22 RAS score. That was one of the highest in the linebacker class this year. 11 tackles for a loss or no gain this past year. 18 tackles for a loss in 2023. 9th in the country. He had 42 and 43 stops over the last 2 years. So we kind of needed a little bit of an enforcer in the run game and the linebacking core. Quincy Williams going into the last year of his deal, I thought, the middle rounds is usually about where you get someone like this, and this is a guy that I think can probably contribute on special teams pretty early on. Tyler Barron, I really like this pick a lot. The one stat I saw from, someone on Twitter, Abdul Carter, 11% pressure rate. Tyler Barron, 15.5% pressure rate. So basically, we got the better edge rusher, if you ask me. 10 sacks this past year. Really nice grades. I think this guy's going to be a replacement for Michael Clemens. I think Clemens has like a $3.5 million salary cap hit this year, caused a bunch of penalties over the course of the last 2 seasons, and I think we've just kind of run out our time with him. So overall, this day 3, 4 set of picks that we got, maybe a little underwhelming. It felt like they knew they wanted certain players, and they didn't care if they overdrafted them as long as they got them in the building. Not really the way I want to see the GM operate day 3 of the draft. I want to see a little more finesse, but I think I'll err on the side of trusting Aaron Glenn until we're proven wrong.
I mostly like the players they picked. Smith was the one questionable one. I will say this was a very deep defensive line class, so it was surprising to see them not grab one, but they did get somebody as an undrafted free agent, so we'll talk about that now because we'll go down the list of undrafted free agents. Quentin Skinner, the wide receiver from Kansas, big dude, 6'5", 195 pounds, averaged over 22 yards per catch, and a special teams contributor. So we'll see if he has a real opportunity to do anything. Sounds more to me like a practice squad candidate, but we'll see. Dean Clark, the safety from Fresno State. We know that the Jets liked him, and Jordan Clark, the safety from Notre Dame. They had brought them in for top 30 visits. The Jets got both of them. Jordan Clark comes in here too as an undrafted free agent. Jordan Clark, the son of former Pittsburgh Steelers safety and current ESPN analyst Ryan Clark. Donovan Edwards, the running back from Michigan, comes in on an undrafted free agent deal, as does, and I hope I don't mess this up, Ryan, as you said before, sometimes these names are tricky, Fatorma Molba, the defensive tackle out of West Virginia, so they get that big body there. Brady Cook, the quarterback from Missouri, we had heard that the Jets might be interested. He didn't get drafted. Some people thought that it was strange that the Jets didn't draft a quarterback. I was fine with it. I thought there was better value at other positions. I just felt like if the Jets weren't going to take a shot at Shedeur Sanders, all the other guys in this draft were backups at that point. So why not wait for one of them as an undrafted free agent? Use your draft capital elsewhere. Brady Cook will now be reunited with the Jets' first-round pick, who went number 7 overall, the guy that blocked for him, Armand Membu. So I'm sure Armand Membu will be happy to see his buddy. Jamarcus Weston, the defensive end out of Florida. He's mostly known for special teams ability, so I'm sure that Chris Banjo is going to like that. Shamal Pritchett, the wide receiver from South Alabama. And here's another name that I hope I don't mess up, Tenalig Hall, running back out of St. Andrews University. Of course, this is something that could change. We might see some more players added and some guys released, but as of now, those are the players that the Jets have signed as undrafted free agents.
Yeah, I think I like it from the special team side of things. I think that's an area that we're going to have to bolster a little bit. New special teams coordinator coming in for the first time in like 5 or 6 years. So I think that's probably needed. Brady Cook, I think, is going to have an opportunity here to maybe replace Jordan Travis as the third quarterback on our roster. I'm not 100% confident he's going to ultimately make it. At least it's competition for quarterback 3. I'd like to see Travis actually earn it, but I know there's been a little bit of contention maybe with Travis and the Jets dating back to the end of last year, so we'll see how that goes. I like the swing on Jordan Clark. I admittedly, I haven't really watched much of him, but I like the family lineage side of things. I think, obviously we saw it with the Mason Taylor pick as well, but I like guys that grew up with fathers that played in the NFL because it means they were basically like groomed from a young age on how to eat, how to work out, how to play the game the right way. So I like some opportunities at some of these swings, and we'll see where it ultimately shakes out.
Let's talk about some of the quotes in the pressers. Arian Smith, after he visited with the Jets, quote, "They told me they see something special in me." Smith on the drops at Georgia, quote, "That's definitely something I need to improve on. Drops are going to happen, but I need to do a better job of eliminating them." Malachi Moore on what the Jets are getting in him, quote, "A fast, physical, relentless player who's going to compete his tail off for as long as it takes, a fearless competitor." Well, that's a heck of a description of yourself. And that does match what you've heard from a lot of the people that talk about Malachi Moore, including Brian Branch, who Aaron Glenn says he reached out to about Malachi Moore, and Brian Branch wouldn't stop singing his praises. The two of them were teammates at Alabama. It's wild to think that Brian Branch was only drafted a couple of years ago and could have played with Malachi Moore. Tyler Barron said he wants to be part of everything that it means to be a Jet. Well, hopefully he wants to be part of the good years that it meant to be a Jet and not what we've seen over the last 15 years. As far as what Darren Moogie and Aaron Glenn had to say, here's Moogie on Arian Smith, quote, "We added an explosive speed element. He's an offensive weapon." Aaron Glenn talked about Smith as well, said that he sees him fulfilling a similar role to what Jameson Williams did with the Detroit Lions. I think that might be a little ambitious. I don't think Arian Smith is anywhere near that kind of player, but I do understand what he means. The speed element is there, and so they want to try and get something out of him in that regard. Aaron Glenn on the entire Jets draft haul, quote, "We got guys that fit the brand of what we're going to be. We're very intentional about guys we want to be a part of this organization." So there you go. Some key quotes from the pressers. I really like Malachi Moore's quote because that's exactly the type of player that Aaron Glenn is looking for. Seems like he was certainly playing to the right audience there.
Yeah, no, I think he's going to be a fun one to watch. I think Tyler Barron and his open flexibility, like, hey, I'll play any position inside, outside, I think is a really good mindset to have. I feel like when we had, maybe previous regimes, like Becton didn't want to play right tackle, just running into some issues like that. I think there's a very clear style of player and traits that they're kind of looking to identify, and I really like where they're headed so far.